How's it going, everyone? Today we have Spencer Carbery on with us as a guest. Spencer, a local Victoria, BC former player, played at the Racket Club and now currently the head coach of the AHL Hershey Bears. Spencer has also spent 4 years as a player in the NCAA at Alaska Anchorage and St. Norbert. Also played 2 years in the BCHL for the Victoria Salsa and Penticton Panthers. And now has spent 10 years coaching. Thanks a lot for coming on with us today. And would you like to explain a little bit of your coaching journey?
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It feels like it's gone by pretty quickly. 10 years when you say that number. Yeah, I started coaching. I had zero idea that I was going to get into the profession. I thought, as my career was winding down, and I didn't think the NHL was attainable at that point as I started to get older. I thought I was going to get into the financial industry, maybe be a banker, advisor, something like that. And actually was approached about coaching, or I said, no, I'd still like to play. And the head coach at the time of South Carolina said, no, I'm not asking you to play. Do you want to, would you entertain being the assistant coach? And I thought about it, and the money wasn't great. But I sort of took, my wife and I took a leap of faith. And the second I dove into it, I loved it, enjoyed every day, enjoyed the grind, enjoyed the working with players one-on-one, the team concept of it. How do you figure out different ways to make your team better, or go up against another team and find an edge? And then 10 years later, still at it. I've been very fortunate, gotten some breaks along the way, and still at her.
Yeah, great. Well, you're currently now, as you mentioned, you're in Washington right now, right?
Yeah, yes. Just waiting for the camp to start, doing our quarantine and work with their staff. And we have a lot of players that potentially there's a taxi squad and some guys that are trying out to try to be a part of that. So here for camp, and then see what'll happen with the American League season. But yeah, it's been, so I spent a bunch of years in the ECHL coaching, was an assistant coach there, head coach. And I actually, my not break, but I thought was probably one of the best things to happen in my coaching career was going to Major Junior and going to the Ontario Hockey League, because I never played in that league. I obviously played in the BCHL Junior A, more of tailored towards hopefully going to college, but never got a sense for Major Junior and the player there. And being able to see in my year in Saginaw and playing in that, or coaching in that league, and seeing the Londons, the Owen Sounds, the Kitcheners, and the player from my year, we were drafting 2000s, 01s. So we had a lot of 99s, 98s, but to see that player and how they had grown up, what was important to them, how they saw the game through their eyes, how they were coached from a young age. All of that stuff was so informational for me, because I wasn't raised that way, or didn't, see the game maybe necessarily the same way as when I was growing up. So now as you get into the American League and the NHL level, even, you've got 99, 2000, 2001 born players that are coming up that now I've got a little bit of background on how they see the game, and how they've grown up, and what their environment's been like, and how their parents have coached them through, or mentored them through their hockey career. So it was a great year in Major Junior and Saginaw for me.
Yeah, and just letting the viewers know that I did play for you in South Carolina there, being traded, I think, from, it was Evansville, Iceman, Indiana, there to South Carolina and Charleston, where we lost in Game 7, which we can talk about a little bit as we get going here. But yeah, so we'll move on with the first question. Just want to get into, your hockey journey, either as player or coach, and something that you would like to share, whether it's some things that you, from your perspective, you would like changed, or some things that you totally agree with, and what you've done yourself and what you see.
Yeah. If I could go back and change a few in my career, but no, I think there's a lot of stuff happens for a reason. And I think one of the big things, and now I have a young child that's growing up and playing minor hockey, that's an 8-year-old and playing travel. And um, I think one big takeaway from coaching now and having been through the journey as a player and now as a dad, um, I would say that there's a big slow embrace adversity. And I know that that's maybe a broad spectrum of things, but there is going to be a lot of things that happen, whether it's in a game, whether it happens when you get cut from a team, released, you change towns and you don't know any of your teammates and you don't know any of the parents and you're a parent. In hockey and that journey, there is going to be a ton of adversity. And if you fight it and if it gets you in a real negative frame of mind, I just feel like you're always going to be battling something that you have to embrace. And you're going to have some pitfalls. You're going to have bad games. You're going to get cut from teams. You're going to not get picked for all-star game, whatever it is. How do you react to that as a young hockey player and then as a parent as well? I think is how do you help your young child recover for that and pick himself up or pick herself up and get right back to it and rebound? Or do we now, take that as such a negative that now it affects things going down the road? So that's something that I took from this journey. Embrace adversity as you're a parent and also as a young player.
Yeah, no, great points there. I mean, these days too, I don't know how familiar you are with minor youth hockey, but there's still that route that you can take, but obviously a lot of different private teams now. I think in the US it was normal where there was travel teams at young ages as well, but now getting into Canada, especially locally here in Victoria, there's a lot of private teams, especially spring still. And then there's power skating coaches, and then there's skill coaches. So there's such a wide variety of options now that, sometimes you're like, oh, we should have done this, right? But it's a matter of what you make with the situation, and your decision is how positive it can be. And, just like, I think something like what you probably would tell your team or players that you work with, right, is when you're doing something, just to make sure it's efficient and 100%. Don't just go into it and just like, it's another day of hockey, it's another skill day. Like you still gotta be engaged and focus into it, as hard as that is. But
yeah,
it's,
I completely agree. And it kind of leads me, like, I was just thinking about when you were talking about that, and this is a tricky thing as a parent, because you want your son or daughter to have it. But there's like a drive and a competitiveness to what you're said, attack skill sessions, to want to do extra work, you have that driven